Hi guys, I finally have my computer back. Mia is here and I wanted to make a very quick video, or that may not be so quick, about a few more unit builds that I consider are very powerful into tier 21 Aether Raids, and that I feel that any player looking to get into tier 21 all the way to tier 27 should invest in. All of these units I considered a good investment. There is nothing really bad about any of these. There is no reason, there is no way that they're gonna be useless compared to some other heroes instead, some other builds. So I feel that they are all 100% good investments. Most of these units are available in the 4-star pool, some in the 3-star pool as well, although there are a couple that you will find as 5-star exclusives, but we will go into why I feel that they are worth it and valuable. So first up is gonna be Legendary Azura. I have two builds for you, one for offense, which is the one in the middle, and one for defense, which is the one by its side. So Legendary Azura, you will see people using her and you'll be like, well, this unit is busted, how can we compete with that? It's the best unit in the game, and so on. Realistically, she is a good support, but she's also a crutch. Yes, she is very good on water season, but it's not always water season. So if it's not water season, you won't be able to bring her on offense. Otherwise, you will lose 20 points for each battle, which you don't want to do. You need every point that you can get. Legendary Azura has two things that put her above every other dancer in her category. First of all, whenever she dances a unit, they move three squares instead of 2, unless they're in armor, but don't use armor on ER. And Prayer Wheel makes it so that any visible buff on the unit that she's dancing is transferred to all their other stats. This way, that's the reason why we run Hone Attack 4 on offense, so that she gives +7 into attack, which then becomes +7 into every other stat. Budget options would be, for example, her default attack tactic, if you can run it, if you have up to and not above 2 units for that movement type. And yeah, we got that point. You could use Hone Flyer, 45 flyers, so on. Torrent Dance is there. It can be any dance seal that gives +5 into each into a specific stat, because with her special ability, she will give +5 into each stat. In the defensive build, you can run it, and most of the times you should. However, I wanted to show a couple possible options. I feel that Wings of Mercy is usually the best option for the B slot, at least it is on offense. However, Aerobatics is also good. Bear in mind that you can also use Aerobatics as a seal. For the C slot, Ground Orders right now is in a very good spot in the meta, because it allows for rally traps and for some type of jumping which is not expected, which will allow a certain carry to clear a bunch of range without the opponent expecting it. So Ground Orders is extremely powerful, and Guidance is another option, which is basically a weaker Ground Orders, because Ground Orders allows a non-flying unit to basically guidance to any non-flying unit. So that is why it's the superior option, but guidance can also be considered. What else to say? If you have one, sure, you can use it. If you don't have one, you can summon for it, but you may have other priorities first. Of course, if we're talking tier 21 and above, you are going to need, your first priority is going to need for each offensive season to have 2 mythic heroes of that element. So for light, well, we get an air and a peony for free. So you don't really have to worry too much about that. You could get a second air, you could get a second peony. Those are all well and good, but they're not your first priority. Whereas on Astra season, you are 100% going to need a combination of Naga and Altina. You are going to need two of them combined. So that can be 2 Nagas, 2 Altinas, or 1 Naga, 1 Altina, or more. But first of all, get those units so that you can score 160 points multiplied by 2 for each match. Next up, we have the second 5-star unit that I'm gonna go into, and that would be Brave Ike. Brave Ike is also technically a free-to-play unit. We all get one of them for free. And if you were around for the first Brave banner, you possibly could have gotten another one. So the first build that I wanted to show is the cheapest build that you can run. And next up, there are 2 more expensive builds. At low merges, you are going to need Aether. You are going to try to proc Aether. This way, you will make up for the lost damage, and you will be able to heal for significant amounts for every combat round. Now, Brave Ike, I would say, at low merges does not function without a Brave Lucina. Brave Lucina, once you have your mythic offense heroes, you are going to want to invest in a Brave Lucina. She comes in twice in the weekly revival banners. She should be coming in either February or March. I think it's February. So if you don't have one, get a copy. There are people that are you will hear people saying that she needs merges to soak up chills and shrines and stuff like that, but I feel that she is just too expensive to merge to that point, especially compared to the fact that you could be merging Brave Ike instead from the same banner, and he does much better with merges because he's tanking and she's just supporting. So the next option for Brave Ike that you're gonna see people use, and I would advise you to use Dragon Flowers on him, would be this build. One thing that I forgot to mention, some people run Wrath in the B slot. That is something that you can consider. Wrath is a free-to-play option, it comes on Astra, but I don't feel is as good as the guaranteed special acceleration from Brave Lucina. Brave Ike will get hit twice thanks to his weapons effect, and then he will counterattack. This guarantees that he will be able to proc Aether, especially with quick riposte for every round of combat. There was another thing that is escaping me right now. Oh yes, Brave Ike is also a counter to Bullfighter armors, because Bullfighter armors usually will run a 3 cooldown special, because they will go -2 cooldown when they attack you the first time, then they will get -1 cooldown, bringing their cooldown to 0 for your counterattack, and then they will hit you with their nuke. With Brave Ike, since you get hit twice before you counterattack, the 3 cooldown will not come into effect, and they won't be able to get their ultimate off. So Brave Ike is really good against defensive armor nukers. Next up, it's this build. It's basically a continuation of the first one. We are running Null Counter Disrupt instead of Quick Riposte, and since our speed is getting a little bit higher, we are getting Swift Stance. We're still getting resistance. Here I was running HP Res 2 because at low merges the flat HP and resistance scales a little bit better. But once you have starting at 6 merges, you can start running Swift Stance. And at this point, it is worth dropping Aether in favor of Soul, and it is worth on Brave Lucina to drop Distant Guard both in the C and Seal slot. Drive Res is the budget option, in order to get Drive Speed instead, double Drive Speed instead. This way he will get +9, +10 speed just from Lucina being there, plus another 4 from Swift Stance. That brings him up to +14 speed. That gets him to a very respectable 51. Null Counter Disrupt is there because with tank setups you run the risk of being stalled by staff users. You can only hit with 1 unit, and you don't have as good of a player phase as you have an enemy phase, and those staff users can get stuck, they can maneuver around, they can get miracle, and so they will waste a ton of time for you. So Nocturne Disrupt is a very good option on Brave Ike. Of course, if you're building one from scratch and you have an Isla laying around, just transfer both the District Counter and the Nocturne Disrupt in one go. Next up is the more expensive option. This Brave Ike, I would say, doesn't even require a Brave Lucina anymore. It's just a continuation of the +6 one, but we get a speed boon instead of an attack boon. If you merge a unit into the same unit but with different IVs, they will retain the level of merges, get +1 merge, and get the new IVs. So I see that coming up a lot, that question coming up a lot, so I just wanted to address that. In this case, you could start going, instead of double air for the double plus resistance, you could start running a 1 or even 2 peonies instead. Although you always want to be careful not to sacrifice too much of your resistance, because it's your most important tanking stat. Your resistance is going to be your most important tanking stat. However, if you can get to high enough speed, you're almost going to guarantee that you're not going to get doubled, which is really good because you're effectively halving the damage you take. Okay, so who do we have next? Next up, we have Old Reliable. We all have a Reinhardt, especially if we've been playing a while, plus attack Reinhardt with Death Blow, and so on. So, why don't we use Quickened Pulse instead of Moonbow? Well, his damage is not that high enough, even at +10, even with 30 Blow and Death Blow 3. You could go Death Blow 4, and you should eventually. Some people stopped using Reinhardt. Reinhardt has this niche where he can hit and run, and his HP is respectable. He gets to 43 +10 from the Mythic heroes. He can be used in either season. One thing that I don't feel enough people are mentioning is the fact that he can run Swordbreaker, which means that he will be able to one-round Seliph. Seliph is a tank that gets Miracle for free. Why is it bad? Well, we need him to be below 50% and able to be one-rounded. Or at least, if we can get his HP low enough by quadding him, because once you're at 1 HP, Miracle doesn't work anymore, you will be able to kill him in one round of combat. So that is why Swordbreaker is the best option for the B slot of a regular old Reinhardt. I see some people using Lancebreaker, and I ask, when is the last time you've seen a Lance user in Aether Raids? There is Est on Fireball. But Est on Fireball you just bring Ike against, because she deals 0x2 and you heal for full HP. Reinhardt is fantastic against Infantry Pulse because he one-shots Seliph. Of course, not all Infantry Pulse users will run Seliph anymore. Some people will convert their Ike to their Aether Raids defense. I'm not going into it just yet because at first I believe that he is best used on offense when paired with Lucina. He is just so easy to use. There is just very little downside to him as a unit. Another much more high investment build for Reinhardt is the meme build. The meme build is no longer using Deathblow, but he's using double Swift Sparrow. You don't really need Speed Smoke, you don't really need Chill Res either. However, there's really nobody that uses Chill Res on Aether Raids offense, so he might as well use it. Speed Smoke is there just so that maybe you don't quad your first kill, maybe you will kill them before you do, but from that point on you will be able to quad the next target. With Swift Sparrow 3, you're getting 10 speed. With Swift Sparrow 2, you're getting another 4, so we're already up to 14. With 2 peonies, you get another, another 8 speed, I believe. So that's 22. Chill Res is -7, so that's, let's say we get +29. Speed Smoke is another +7, so that would be 36. 36 plus 53, we, in the ideal condition, we hit 59 speed. That means that we can quad even a plus speed New Year Slate, a New Year Christmas Tethys. Of course, you're a blue unit, they're green, but that's worth considering. Draconic Aura is a 3 cooldown special. Since we rely on quadding, you will be able to trigger this kind of an ultimate. You could go Rupture Sky instead for basically the premium version of Moonbow. But yeah, if you have a high investment Reinhardt and you want to keep using him, I would advise to go for this build. This is no longer a meme build. You can actually reach really high speed amounts with Reinhardt. A support that I like for Reinhardt, or rather, the first answer that I would advise investing in would be Razin. Razin works well even with minimal investments. No Dragon Flowers, no merges, no real IVs. Very little skill inheritance. All he needs is Wings of Mercy 3 and Dry Breath. And for the seal slot, you can run Aerobatics or Flyer Formation, something like that. This lets you have a dancer that is extremely mobile because he gets to 3 base movement plus Wings of Mercy plus Aerobatics, which lets him reach even further. Basically, with Razin, you are able to keep him safe and just bring him into dance when you need to. Next up is Matthew. You've all seen me use him. This is a slightly more premium build than the one I use. However, with Matthew, I feel that you really can't go wrong with merges. Some Vantage users will get panicked, or they will get chilled. His attack and speed are not high enough in order for this to happen. With a Naga that is plus speed or plus attack and not minus speed or minus attack, even with no merges, she will be able to soak both attack and speed from Matthew, even at +9, +8, which is his highest number for offense. Pulse Smoke is optional. It's just another option against Infantry Pulse team. Once you hit the Pulse Smoke, they won't have their instant ultimates again, so you will be much safer even if they get one off. And Brazen Attack Res I like more than other options because of the fact that you will be low most of the times, and this will allow you almost guaranteed to tank a New Year Micaiah's hit. Not a special, but a regular hit. Now, Matthew requires a dedicated support group. Some people you will see running Attack Smoke and Speed Smoke. I still run Attack Smoke on mine. However, the best option would be to have somebody else spread the debuffs for him. The first option that we have is Air. Air, let me move her around. This is the best supporting build for Air. Temari gives each enemy that is next to another enemy that has less resistance than her, it gives them -5, I believe it's attack and speed. I think it's the same effect as Brave Micaiah's weapon. We give her Fury 3, we're finding it for resistance in order to buff her res. As you can see, she is already at +1/+4, able to soak offensive stats from Matthew, which is wonderful. He won't be getting debuffed pretty much ever. She has attack res link and a tactic in order to give +3 and +6 into 3 different types of buffs. You could run speed tactics, you could run res tactic seal so that you get quad spectrum +6 buffs. I like bringing chill attack. You might have heard me say it, I never leave the house when it comes to Aether Raids without chill attack. That is just so invaluable, so good. Yes, sometimes you will be vulnerable to a restore trap, but it is just so much powerful. With Matthew, you can use him both on Light and Astra Season. I use basically the same build on Soth on Light Season, and I use Matthew on Astra. They're interchangeable, really, and you don't even need a special damaging special on them. Miracle is perfectly fine, and it just gives you that little bit of extra safety for those times where you don't expect the hits coming. Next up we have, let me shut down here. Next up we have Aversa. Aversa has two possible builds still to support Matthew. She spreads debuffs thanks to Aversa's Knight. On the left is an Aversa at low merges, and on the right is an Aversa at high merges. As you can see, the HP stat is the most important thing to consider. She needs at least 56 HP in order to basically with 56 HP she's not vulnerable to Tactics Room, Panic Manor, and so on. She needs the more HP really the better, but you get to a certain point where you're pretty much guaranteed that she will have 3 more HP than the units that she wants to be debuffing. Because of course otherwise they won't be debuffed, but she's pretty safe in that regard. I like Desperation for her B slot more than Axebreaker, because I feel that there are more armors to snipe compared to Serta, which used to be the only option. And with high speed and Desperation, that is pretty much the best option for her. The C slot can be whatever. It can be a tactics, it can be a smoke. Guidance is usually the best option, but it's kind of a premium skill. So if you don't have one, don't worry about using it. Don't worry about giving it to her. She performs much better on offense compared to defense. I see people putting her in a corner just for the sudden panic effect on defense. However, I feel that you can just play around it and you would be just much better off getting your sudden panic on a high HP dancer compared to the effects that Niversa gives you on defense. So give her an offensive blessing, either Light or Astra, and pair her with your Matthew. Next up we have another option that pairs really well with Matthew, still thanks to Temari, and that would be Tethys. Tethys, as you can see, with plus attack, plus resistance IVs, reaches all the way up to 44 resistant, which is insane. She is basically guaranteed to give her debuff on everybody, as long as they're next to another unit, but that is gonna happen most of the times. Yeah, Tethys also gives you the option, you've seen me lament me a couple times, it gives you the option not only to be running a support unit for Matthew, but also a unit that will dance him, which is fantastic because it allows you to reposition to hit multiple units in one go, to hit and run. It lets you do a ton of stuff just having a free dancer that is also a debuff unit. Show speed is another debuff. 2 tactics are a buffing option just for Matthew, but you can fit those on other support units as well. And finally is a cheaper, low investment Blade Tome close counter bandage user, and that would be Darja. Darja is the best and the best really Vantage user that uses a Blade Tome, because with her weapon special effect she gives -4 attack and resistance? I think it's resistance, not speed, to her target. Compared to someone like Anino, who only gets a visible buff, so who cares, she is able to pack a much larger punch with just 1 attack. Her defenses get pretty respectable once you bless her and you pair her up with double air or double Altina, double Naga. Of course, I use her along with Peony because I like the fact that I have a free dancer. But as a Vantage user, she doesn't really need the speed. She will be one-shotting her target very reliably. Glimmer is, I feel, the most valuable option on her because sometimes you are gonna need the extra damage. Compared to the effects of a debuff stacking plus buff stacking on Matthew, she doesn't get buffed just as much, so sometimes she might need the extra option. And finally, there are the defensive options that I want you to consider. First up is Kagura. Kagura has 3 main builds, and she is generally pretty much always really played in an infantry pulse lineup. Plus 9, plus 8 is as far as you should go because you only need offensive stats on her. You don't really need any more defensive stats from the final merges. Let's put this one over here. On the left we have a Fury 4 null follow-up Rupture Sky version. Those are all premium skill, very premium skills. Rupture Sky and Fury 4 I put together mostly because they come from the same unit. You can transfer them both from a female Byleth. Rupture Sky compared to something like a Luna gives you the option to only run 2 copies of Infantry Pulse, whereas Luna or the next special that we're gonna see is gonna require 3. Of course, Sturdy Impact will prevent the opponent from doubling you on your initiation. In this case, our speed is a little bit higher, so we run null follow-up in order to nullify quick riposte. Hardy Bearing is the preferred skill on her. However, you could also run Swift Sparrow on either version, really. On the version in the middle, you could consider also Sturdy Blow, just because it syncs up very well with Sturdy Impact. Lull Speed Defense is a very premium skill that pairs up really well with what Kagura provides. It gives -3 speed to your opponent along with -3 defense, and it nullifies any buffs to their speed and defense. Panic Smoke is the most valuable skill that you could run in her C slot. It comes from Thracier, and she's a very, very powerful unit. 2 Thraciers plus Infantry Pulse makes for a very powerful Astra defensive team. But if you have more to spare, just give one to your Kagura and you won't regret it. The other options would be just a general drive skill or a smoke skill, just to pair up with the debuffs from Kagura's Dart. The final option that I would like you to consider is a Glacius version. A Glacius version, here I have it paired with double Unes, so not necessarily in a full Infantry Pulse team. However, you could also pair her up with Tethys in order to get plus resistance. With Mirror Impact, she reaches really high resistance. She gets, I believe, +6 or more. That makes her Glacius really, really powerful. It's the preferable option compared to Bonfire. Of course, most of the tanks, pretty much every tank, will hit you on the defense side and not on the resistance side, but this will give you a more powerful initial hit. Darting Blow is another possible option as a seal because it pretty much guarantees with 46 speed plus another 6 plus another 3 that you're gonna double your target. So if you don't kill on the first hit, they're not gonna kill you on retaliation, and you should be killing on your second hit from the first round of combat. So yeah, Kagura is the first unit that I would invest into as a free-to-play user. Once you have your offense done, build a Kagura. Yeah. And next up is a tank that pairs really well with Kagura, and that would be Seliph. I have Seliph here at 3 different levels of investment. In the middle is the cheaper version, which is basically my version. It's only +1 +2. Mine is +6 +2, I believe. What you want to make sure is that you have at least 61 or 71 HP because you want to have more HP than double the damage of your Bolt Trap. Your Bolt Trap should be getting you low, but it should not be getting you below 50% HP. Because if you drop below 50% of your HP, you won't be able to get the miracle effect from your weapon. And once you begin your round of combat, you will be dropping to 1 HP, but that will allow what we call the lightning rod effect all your Wings of Mercy users will be able to port next to Seliph and drop their fat nukes onto your initial target, your initial attacker. Vengeance is the option that I like to use because it scales well with high HP. If you have, let's say, some defensive mythics, you will get plus 5 HP for each defensive mythic, so that is also very good. HP res, we already built it because we put it on our Brave Ike, so you should have it ready and it shouldn't cost you any more coins, so put it on him at the start of your investment. Next up, when you feel like investing more into him, you can get to +6/+6 in the left option, or +8/+2 if you don't have as many Dragon Flowers to spare. You can go Bonfire, you can go Vengeance. If you go Bonfire, you should be going HP defense. With these options, you could be dropping HP res for distant counter, however I prefer just having the higher HP pool. Once again, 71 HP is the breakpoint that we want to reach. And finally, the first Galeforcer that could be used both on offense and on defense, this is the build that you would use on defense, is Eliwood. OG Eliwood with Blazing Durandal gets +7 gets, what does he get? He gets +7 attack, +10 speed, if I recall correctly, or +7 defense, +10 speed. I think it's +7 defense, +10 speed on initiation. He's a Galeforce user, that's his niche. You want Swift Sparrow on his seal, on his A slot you could be using Fury instead. On defense you want to be using Lunge because most tanks would sit at 2 squares away from their support, which would be providing them with buffs from the 2 square range. If we lunge them away, they are no longer in range of their support, and therefore they are much more vulnerable. Attack Smoke is just a seal option, you could use anything else, but since you're gonna be initiating with Eliwood, smokes are really good on him. So yeah, first I would build the Eliwood for defense really, because Galeforce on offense requires a fair amount of extra practice, and in some cases is just not viable, whereas on defense he is always really good. It displaces tanks, it makes them more vulnerable, and he is almost guaranteed to get the Galeforce off, and therefore once he's in the middle of the enemy team he will be hitting another enemy twice, and he should very easily be getting a kill. So yes, +9/+4 for a defensive unit is a lot of feathers, but once you've got your feather farming initiated, you should be fine with them. For my dark defense, I am going to build both a Kagura and an Eliwood from scratch with builds that you've seen, so stay tuned for those. So these are the units that I would build at first for Aether Raids tier 21 and up. First you want your offensive mythics, 2 for each season. Then you want to focus on your offensive units, and finally you can build your defenses. For your defenses, mythics are just the safer option. Duma is the only really bad one, but even then some people say that he's okay. I believe that since he shares season with Thracier, and Thracier is a fantastic, just A+ unit, you shouldn't be pulling for him. If you have all the other units and you're gonna start building your defense, try and get a couple Thraciers, then maybe get a couple Yuns, maybe get a couple Tethys, or maybe just wait until the end of the month, because we might be getting an even better dark defensive mythics, so fingers crossed. And yeah, those are in orders the units that I would build towards. I hope this video has shed some lights on any doubts that you might have. If there's any unit that you feel I didn't cover, please let me know in the comments. However, I am pretty confident that these are the best respective options to build from a mostly free-to-play perspective. Save your orbs for mythic banners. Get your mythics, get your offense mythics, and then get in your weekly revival banners, get your Brave Ike merges, get your single Brave Lucina, and then you're good. And then you're good. Everything else is just collateral. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.